Ajit Pai hasn't been having the best week because, as you all know, the Senate voted in a 52-47 vote to nullify the FCC's repeal of net neutrality, and he quickly released a statement thereafter saying, "It's disappointing that Senate Democrats forced this resolution through by a narrow margin, but ultimately I'm confident that their effort to reinstate heavy-handed government regulation of the internet will fail." Now, personally, I'm just surprised that he didn't use the phrase bipartisan light touch approach. But, nonetheless, he's still disappointed. But believe it or not, that probably wasn't the worst part of Ajit Pai's week, because he was recently looped into a major corruption scandal involving AT&T and Donald Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen. So as Carl Bode of DSL Reports writes, last week, AT&T apologized for its serious misjudgment in hiring U.S. President Donald Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, to provide insights into how the new administration would handle issues like net neutrality and AT&T's proposed merger with Time Warner Cable. Ultimately, the $600,000 AT&T paid Cohen for said insights became such a scandal, the company was forced to fire its top policy and lobbying man, Bob Quinn, despite the fact that such behavior is arguably routine at the Dallas-based telecom giant. So now the question is, where exactly does Ajit Pai come into play here? Why is he caught up in this story now? Well, as Carl Bode continues to explain, new scheduling documents obtained through FOIA by corruption watchdog American Oversight show the chairman met with top AT&T executives at a private dinner in Barcelona a month after the company began paying Cohen. One of the AT&T executives at that meeting was a top AT&T policy and lobbying executive, Bob Quinn, who orchestrated the payments to Cohen and was fired by AT&T for what the company now acknowledges was, quote, a mistake. A private dinner between Chairman Pai and an AT&T executive who hired Michael Cohen to influence the president doesn't reflect well on the impartiality of the FCC, said American Oversight Director Austin Aveers in a statement. Pai should disclose exactly what was discussed at the dinner and who organized the meeting. Did Michael Cohen set up a dinner where AT&T executives tried to sway a member of the president's administration on policy that affects the company? We can't know for sure until Pai tells the whole story, the group proclaimed. The FCC has some serious explaining to do. Given that Pai is arguably ultra cozy with the industry he's supposed to be holding accountable, it's entirely possible that meeting would have happened anyway. But the group still believes that the company and Ajit Pai should be more transparent about the meeting, especially given the laundry list of favors from gutting net neutrality to killing consumer privacy protections that have rained down upon AT&T since Trump picked Pai to head the agency. So this is now corruption scandal number 1,257, I think, for Ajit Pai. I've lost count at this point. He has done so many things to raise suspicion. He's been caught up in so many corruption scandals in the short time that he's been the chairman of the FCC. I don't know how he hasn't resigned in shame. I mean, as an individual, it's almost as if he's masochistic at this point to remain in the FCC after how much shit he's getting, and rightfully so, because he constantly is doing things to show that he is too cozy with the industry he's supposed to be regulating, and here now, he's now looped up in a corruption scandal with Michael Cohen and AT&T. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than this, folks. This is huge. Now, for those of you who don't remember all the ways in which Ajit Pai is corrupt, just to name a few, first and foremost, he is obstructing justice, literally, by refusing to comply with information requests that have been sent out by the New York Attorney General's office. Now, he may get a break because, as you all know, New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman was forced to resign because he's a scumbag. But I mean, regardless of what Eric Schneiderman did, there will be a new attorney general that will most likely take over the lawsuit that Eric Schneiderman launched against the FCC. And this lawsuit was catalyzed by the fact that Ajit Pai refused to investigate comment fraud. They were asking just for basic information about the comments that were submitted on behalf of people without their knowledge, using their identities to file comments to the FCC, submit comments that stated that they support the repeal of net neutrality, and Ajit Pai said, no, we're not going to give you any information. So the New York Attorney General's office is now suing him. That's one of the ways that he's clearly a very corrupt dude. Additionally, he is blocking the release of information of skits he made. with Verizon executives, with a conservative news outlet, the Daily Caller. Why won't you even release the most benign, seemingly banal, innocuous details? I mean, is it really important that you safeguard those emails between you and the Verizon executive, where you guys planned a stupid skit that was inconsequential? I mean, the only reason he'd really have to block that is if he has something bigger to hide. Perhaps his relationship with Verizon goes deeper than he wants us to believe. I mean, we already know that he's cozy with them because that's his former and probably future employer. So, of course, he is buddy-buddy with Verizon executives, but he won't release details about a skit that he made with them. And I mean, that's not all. He gave a speech at Verizon's headquarters just days before he voted to repeal net neutrality. I mean, really, when it comes to corruption, Ajit Pai may be the poster boy in Washington, D.C. He has done everything to wear his corruption on his sleeve and doesn't care at all what anybody thinks about it. All he's doing is he is pursuing his agenda to deregulate the internet, strip away consumer protections, and kill net neutrality. And he's been very successful at doing just that, even if we are challenging him. But I mean, he's been laser focused. He doesn't care about the corruption. He doesn't care about how it looks. He just knows that there's going to be a big payday one day if he continues his anti-consumer agenda. But here he is now, caught up in a scandal with Michael Cohen and AT&T. I think every other week I'm covering a new corruption scandal with Ajit Pai. He needs to just resign. If nobody in Congress is willing to pursue impeachment against him, he's got to resign. This level of corruption is despicable. I mean, people within Donald Trump's administration, like Tom Price, were forced to resign. And now we have people like Ajit Pai and Scott Pruitt just flaunting their corruption in front of our faces. Well, this should not be tolerated, because after Ajit Pai leaves, then his successor is going to be just as brazenly corrupt, and we have to put a stop to it. We have to put pressure on him to resign and put pressure on elected officials to fire people like Ajit Pai when they are brazenly corrupt and too buddy-buddy with the industries they're supposed to be regulating.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.